Shalom, everyone. Hope you all having a wonderful day so far. All right, so this is going to be the next video in the continuation reading from the book of Jasher. So, in this subject is going to be from Jasher chapter 63 through the end of Jasher chapter 67. So, this is going to be the reading section of this video. And this video will describe how slavery in Egypt started. So as you know from the previous video, of course, the previous video went over the conflict between Esau and his sons with Jacob's sons and wars with the other nations or whatever. Of course, that was at the time when Jacob died and stuff like that. Esau tried to um, reclaim back his burial place when it was already purchased and stuff. All that conflict going on. But in the last few videos, you notice that they were super rich in Egypt. They had all the riches. Joseph was reigning in Egypt under Pharaoh, and they had it all. They had all the gold, silver, all the rock, heavy metals, and stones, and all kinds of stuff. Like they were really rich, basically. Now you will see in this video how they went from that to ended up being slaves all of a sudden. So here we go. This is going to be from chapter 63 to the ending of chapter 67. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. All right, here we go. Chapter 63 of the book of Jasher. In the 93rd year, Levi, the son of Jacob, died in Egypt, and Levi was 137 years old when he died, and they put him in a coffin, and he was given to the hands of his children. And it came to be after the death of Levi, when all of Egypt saw that the sons of Jacob, the brothers of Joseph, were all dead, all the Egyptians began to afflict the children of Jacob and to embitter their lives from that day to the day of their going out from Egypt. So let me stop right there real quick. So obviously, it was kind of a continuation from the last video. All of the sons of Jacob died. All of them died. The 12 sons, they all died basically. So Levi was the last one that died out of the 12 sons. So obviously, you see where we're at in history. So the 12 sons died. Now it's only that the generation under them that's living, of course. All of their sons. All right, here we fields which Joseph had given to them, and all the fine houses in which the people of Yashro lived, and all the fatness of Egypt, and the Egyptians took all from the sons of Jacob in those days. Of course, that's very harsh. And the hands of all Egypt became more grievous in those days against the children of Yasharal, and the Egyptians provoked the Yasharites to the children of Yasharal were wearied of their lives because the Egyptians. And it came to be in those days, the 102nd year of Yasharal's going down to Egypt, Pharaoh, the sovereign of Egypt, died, and Melol, his son, reigned in his place, and all the mighty men of Egypt and all that generation which knew Joseph and his brothers died in those days. So now all that generation that knew about Joseph and Jacob, they all died. So they literally have no memory or any remembrance of when they all had it all and everything like that. So now it's in a different generation now. And another generation rose up in their place, in which they had not known the sons of Jacob and all the good which they had done to them and all their might in Egypt. Therefore all Egypt began from that day onward to embitter the lives of the sons of Jacob, to afflict them with all manner of hard labor, because they have not known their ancestors who had delivered them in the days of the scarcity of food. This was also from Yahuwah for the children of Yashrael, to benefit them in their latter days, in order that all of Yashrael might know Yahuwah, their Almighty, and in the order to know the signs and mighty wonders which Yahuwah would do in Egypt because of his people Yashrael, in order that the children of Yashrael might fear Yahuwah, of their ancestors, and walked in all their ways, and they and their seed after them all the days. And Melol was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 94 years. And all Egypt called his name Pharaoh, after the name of his father, as it was their custom to do to every sovereign who reigned over them in Egypt. And all the time of their companies, Agius, the sovereign of Africa, went out to spread among the land of the Hittites as usual to plunder. And Sepho, the son of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, heard their report, and he went forth to meet them with his army, and they fought from there on the way. And Sepho smote the companies of the sovereigns of Africa with the edge of the sword, and left none remaining of them, and not even one returned to his master in Africa. And Agius heard of this which Sepho, the son of Eliphaz, had done to all his companies, and they had destroyed them. And Agius assembled all the companies and all the men of the land of Africa, people as numerous as the sand by the seashore. And Agius sent to Lucas his brother, saying, Come to me with all your men, and help me to smite Sepho, and all the children of the Hittites had destroyed my men. And Lucas came with his whole army, a very great company, to assist Agius his brother to fight against Sepho, the children of the Hittites. And Sepho and the children of the Hittites heard of this matter, and they were greatly afraid, and great fear fell upon their hearts. And Sepho also sent a letter to the land of Edom, to Hadad the son of Bedad, the sovereign of Edom, and to all the children of Esau, saying, I have heard that Agius, the sovereign of Africa, is coming to us with his brother for battle against us, and we are greatly afraid of him, and his army was very great, particularly as he comes against us with his brother and his army also. Now therefore you also come up with me to help me, and we will fight together against Agius and his brother Lucas, and you will save us out of their hands, and if not, know that we shall all die. And the children of Esau sent a letter to the children of the Hittites to Sepho their sovereign, saying, We cannot fight against Agius and his people, for a covenant of peace has been between us these many years, from the days of Bilhah the first sovereign, from the days of Joseph, the sons of Jacob, the sovereign of Egypt, whom we fought on the other side of Jordan when he buried his father. And when Sepho heard these words of his brothers, the children of Esau, he refrained from them, and Sepho was greatly afraid of Agius. And Agius and Lucas his brother arrayed all their companies, about 800,000 men, against the children of the Hittites. And all the children of the Hittites said to Sepho, Pray for us to the God of your ancestors. May he deliver us from the hand of Agius his army. And we have heard that he is a great God, and he delivers all who trust in him. And Sepho heard their words, and Sepho sought Yahuwah, and he said, O Yahuwah, God of Abraham and Isaac, my ancestors, this day I know that you are a true God, and all the mighty ones of the nations are vain and useless. Remember now today your covenant with me, with Abraham, your father, our father, which our ancestors related to us, and deal favorably with me today for the sake of Abraham and Isaac, our fathers, and save me from the children of the Hittites, from the land of the sovereign of Africa, who comes against us for battle. And Yahuwah listened to the voice of Sepho, and he had regard for him because of Abraham and Isaac. And Yahuwah delivered Sepho from the children of the Hittites, and from the hand of the Agius and his people. And Sepho fought against Agius, the sovereign of Africa, and all his people on that day. And Yahuwah gave all the people of Agias into the hands of the children of the Hittites. And the battle was fierce upon Agias, and Sepho smote all the men of Agias and Lucas his brother with the edge of the sword, and there fell from them among 400,000 men until the evening of that day. When Agias saw that all his men perished, he sent a letter to all the inhabitants of Africa to come to him to assist him in battle. And he came and he wrote a letter saying, all who are found in Africa, let him come to me from 10 years old and upward, and let them all come to me, and see if he does not come, he shall die, and all that he has in his whole household, and the sovereign will take. And the rest of the inhabitants of Africa were afraid at the words of Agias. I was about to sneeze. And there went up from the city of 300,000 men, boys of 10 years old and upward, came to Agias. And at the end of the 10 days, Agias renewed against the battle of Sepho, against the children of the Hittites, and the battle was very great and strong between them. And the army of Agias and Lucas of Sepho sent many of the wounded to his hand, about 200,000 men, as Sosipater, the captain of the army at Agias, fell in that battle, and Sosipater had fallen, and companies of Africa turned their backs to flee, and they fled, and Agias and Lucas his brother were with them. And Sepho and the children of the Hittites pursued them, and they continued to smite them heavily on the way, about 200 men. And they pursued Asdrubal, the son of Agias, who had fled from his father, and they smote 20 of his men on the way. But Asdrubal escaped from the children of the Hittites, and they did not slay him. And Agias and Lucas his brother fled from the rest of their men, and they escaped and came to Africa with fear and dread. And Agias feared all the days lest Sepho the son of Eliphaz should go to battle against him. Chapter 64. And Bilam the son of Boer was at that time with Agias in battle. When he saw Sophar prevailed over Agias, he fled from there and came to the Hittites. And Sepho and the children of the Hittites received him with great honor, for Sepho knew Bilam's wisdom. And Sepho gave Bilam many gifts, and he remained with him. And when Sepho had returned to battle, he commanded all the children of the Hittites to be numbered who had gone into battle with him, and see, not one was missing. And Sepho rejoiced at this matter, and he renewed his reign, and he made a feast for all his subjects. And Sepho did not remember Yahuwah, and did not consider that Yahuwah had helped him in battle, for he had delivered him and his people from the hand of the sovereign of Africa. But he still walked in the ways of the children of the Hittites and the wicked children of Esau, and served other mighty ones which his brothers and the children of Esau had taught him. It is therefore said, from the wicked goes forth wickedness. And Sepho reigned over all the children of the Hittites safely, but did not know Yahuwah, who had delivered him and all his people from the hands of the sovereign of Africa. And the companies of Africa came no more to the Hittites to plunder as usual, for they knew the power of Sepho had smitten them with all of the edge of the sword. And Agias was afraid of Sepho, the son of Eliphaz, and the children of the Hittites all the days. And the time when Sepho had returned from the battle, when Sepho had seen how he prevailed over all the people of Africa, had smitten them in battle with the edge of the sword, then Sepho took counsel with the children of the Hittites to go to Egypt to fight against the sons of Jacob, and with Pharaoh the sovereign of Egypt. And when Sepho heard that the mighty men of Egypt were dead, and that Joseph and his brothers, the sons of Jacob, were dead, and all their children and the children of Yashruel remained in Egypt, and Sepho considered to go and fight against him in all Egypt to avenge the cause of his brothers, the children of Esau. And when Joseph and his brothers in all Egypt smitten them in the land of Canaan, and they went to bury Jacob in Hebron. And when Sepho sent messengers of Hadad, the son of Bedad, the son of Edom, and all his brothers and the children of Esau, saying, did you not say that you would not fight against the sovereign of Africa, for he is a member of your covenant? See, I fought with him and smote him and all his people. Now therefore I have resolved to fight against Egypt and the children of Jacob who are there, and I will be avenged of them for what Joseph, his brothers, and the ancestors did to us in the land of Canaan, for they went up to bury their father in Hebron. And now if you are willing to come with me to assist me in fighting against them in Egypt, then we shall avenge the cause of our brothers. And the children of Esau listened to the words of Sepho, and the children of Esau gathered themselves together, a very great people, and they went to assist Sepho and the children of the Hittites in battle. And Sepho sent all the children of the east and all the children of Ishmael with words such as these, and they gathered themselves and came to the assistance of Sepho and the children of the Hittites in the battle upon Egypt. And all the sovereigns of Edom, and the children of the east, and all the children of Ishmael, and Sepho, the sovereign of Hittites, went out and arrayed all their armies in Hebron. And the camp was very great, extending in length a distance of 3 days' journey, and people as numerous as the sand of the seashore, which cannot be counted. And all these sovereigns and their armies went out and came against all Egypt in battle, and encamped together in the valley of Pathros. And Egypt heard their report, and they also gathered themselves together, and all the people of the land of Egypt, and all the cities belonging to Egypt, about 300,000 men. And the men of Egypt also sent to the children of Yasharal, those in those days were in the land of Goshen, to come to them in order to go and fight against the sovereigns. And the men of Yasharal assembled, and were about 150 men, and they went to battle and assist the Egyptians. And the men of Yasharal and of Egypt went out, about 300,000 men and 150 men, and they went towards the sovereigns to battle, and they placed themselves from without the land of Goshen, opposite of Pathros. And Egypt did not trust in Yasharal to go with them in their divisions together for battle, for all the Egyptians said, maybe the children of Yasharal shall deliver us into the hands of the children of Esau and Ishmael, for they are their brothers. And all the Egyptians said to the children of Yasharal, you remain here together in your position, and we will go and fight against the children of Esau and Ishmael. And if these sovereigns should prevail over us, then you come all together upon them and assist us. And the children of Yasharal did so. And Sepho, the son of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, the sovereign of the Hittites, and Hadad, the son of Bedad, the sovereign of Edom, and all their divisions, and all the children of the east, and the children of Ishmael, and the people, and numerous as the sand, encamped together in the valley of Pathros, opposite of Tahpanhes. And Balaam, the son of Boer, the Aramean, was there in the camp of Sepho, and he came with the children of the Hittites to the battle. And Balaam was a mighty man, was a man highly honored in the eyes of Sepho and his men. And Sepho said to Balaam, try by divination for us, that we may know who will prevail in the battle, or we or the Egyptians. And Balaam rose up and tried the art of divination. He was skillful in the knowledge of it, but he was confused, as the work was destroyed in his hand. And he tried again, but it did not succeed. And Balaam despaired of it and left it and did not complete it. For this was from Yahuwah, in order to cause Sepho and his people to fall into the hands of the children of Yasharal, who had trusted in Yahuwah of their ancestors in their battle. And Sepho and Hadad put their armies in the battle array, and all the Egyptians went out alone against them, about 300,000 men, and not one man of Yasharal was with them. And when all the Egyptians fought with these sovereigns opposite Pathros and Tahpanhes, and the battle was fierce against the Egyptians, and the sovereigns were stronger than the Egyptians in that battle, and about 180 men of Egypt fell in that day. About 30 men of the armies of the sovereigns, and all the men of Egypt fled from before the sovereigns, and fled from before the sovereigns. So the children of Esau and Ishmael pursued the Egyptians, continuing to smite them to the place where the camp of the children of Yasharal was. And all the Egyptians cried to the children of Yasharal, saying, hasten to us and assist us to save us from the hands of Esau, Ishmael, and the children of the Hittites. And the 150 men of the children of Ishmael ran from their positions to the camps of these sovereigns. And the children of Yasharal cried to Yahuwah to deliver them. And Yahuwah listened to Yasharal, and Yahuwah gave all the men of the sovereigns into their hands. And the children of Yasharal fought against his sovereigns And the children of Yashruel smote about 400 of the sovereign's men. And Yahuwah threw a great confusion into the camp of the sovereigns, so that the fear of the children of Yashruel fell upon them. And all the armies of the sovereigns fled from before the children of Yashruel, and the children of Yashruel pursued them, continuing to smite them to the borders of the land of Cush. And the children of Yashruel slew them on the way, a further 2,000 men, but not one of the children of Yashruel fell. And when the Egyptians saw that the children of Yashruel had fought with such few men with the sovereigns, and that the battle was so very fierce against them, all the Egyptians were greatly afraid for their lives because of the mighty battle, and all the Egyptians fled, and every man hiding from himself the arrayed armies, and they hid themselves on the way, and they left the Yashruelites to fight. And the children of Yashruel inflicted a terrible blow upon the sovereign's men, and they returned from them after they had driven them to the border of the land of Cush. And all Yashruel knew the matter which the men of Egypt had done to them, and they all fled to them from them in the battle, and they left them to fight alone. And the children of Yashruel also acted with cunning. As the children of Yashruel returned from battle, they found some of the Egyptians on the way and smote them there. And while they slew them, they said to them these words, "Why do you go from us and leave us, being a few people, to fight against these sovereigns who had a great people to smite us, that you might thereby deliver your own beings?" As some of which the Yashruelites met on the way, the children of Ashurel spoke to each other, saying, "Smite, smite, for he is a Ishmaelite, or an Edomite, or from the children of the Hittites." And they stood over them and slew him, but they knew that he was an Egyptian. And the children of Yashruel did these matters cunningly against the Egyptians, because they had deserted them in battle and had fled from them. And the children of Yashruel slew the men of Egypt, about 200 men, on the way in this manner. And all the men of Egypt saw the evil which the children of Yashruel had done to them. So all of Egypt greatly feared the children of Yashruel, for they had seen their great power, and that not one man of them had fallen. And all the children of Yashruel returned with joy on their way to Goshen, and the rest of Egypt returned, each man to his place. Chapter 65. And it came to be after these matters that all the counselors of Pharaoh, the sovereign of Egypt, and all the elders of Egypt assembled and came before the sovereign and bowed down to the ground, and they sat before him. And the counselors and the elders of Egypt spoke to the sovereign, saying, "Look, the people of the children of Yashruel are greater and mightier than we are, and you know all the evil which they did to us on the way which we returned from battle. And you have also seen their strong power, for this power to them is from their fathers. For but a few men stood up against a people numerous of the sand, and smote them by the edge of the sword, but of themselves not one is fallen, so that if they had been numerous, they would then have utterly destroyed them. Now therefore give us counsel what to do with them, until we gradually destroy them from among us, lest they become too numerous for us in the land. And for if the children of Yashruel should increase in the land, they will become an obstacle to us. And if any battle should come and take place, they with their great strength should join our enemy against us and fight against us and destroy us from the land and go away from it." And the sovereign answered, and the elders of Egypt and said to him, "This is the plan advised against Yashruel, from which we will not depart. See, in the land are Pithom and Ramesses, the cities unfortified against battle. It is necessary for us to build them and fortify them. Now therefore you go and also act cunningly towards them, and send a call in Egypt and in Goshen, and at the command of the sovereign, saying, all you men of Egypt, Goshen, and Pathros, and all their inhabitants, the sovereign has commanded us to build Pithom and Ramesses, to fortify them for battle. Whoever among you of all Egypt, and the children of Yashruel, and all the inhabitants of the city, are willing to build with us, shall each have his wages given to him daily at the sovereign's order. So you go first and do cunningly, and gather yourselves, and come to Pithom and Ramesses to build. And while you are building, send a call of this kind to be made throughout Egypt every day at the command of the sovereign. And when some of the children of Yasharal shall come to build with you, you shall give them their wages daily for a few days. And after this they shall have built with you with their daily wage. Withdraw yourselves away from them daily, one by one in secret, that you shall rise up and become their taskmasters and officers, and you shall lead them afterwards to build without wages. But should they refuse, then force them with all your might to build. And if you do this, it will be well with us to strengthen our land against the children of Yasharal. Because of the fatigue of the building and the work, the children of Yasharal will decrease, because you will deprive them from their wives day by day. And all the elders of Egypt heard the counsel of the sovereign, and the counsel seemed good in their eyes, and in the eyes of the servants of the Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all of Egypt, and they did according to the word of the sovereign. And all the servants went away from the sovereign, and they sent a call to be made in all Egypt, the Taphanites, and in Goshen, and all the cities that surrounded Egypt, saying, You have seen what the children of Esau and Ishmael did to us, who come to battle against us and wanted to destroy us. Now therefore the sovereign commanded us to fortify the land, to build the cities of Pethom and Ramesses, to fortify them for battle, if they should come against us. Whoever of you in all Egypt and the children of Yasharal will come to build with us, he shall be given his daily wages given by the sovereign and his command to us. And when Egypt and all the children of Yasharal heard all that the servants of Pharaoh had spoken, they came from the Egyptians of the children of Yasharal to build with the servants of Pharaoh, Pethom and Ramesses, but none of the children of Levi came with their brothers to build. And all the servants of Pharaoh and his princes came at first with deceit to build with all Yasharal as daily hired laborers, and they gave to Yasharal their daily wage at the beginning. And the servants of Pharaoh built with all Yasharal, and they were employed in that work with Yasharal for a month. And at the end of the month, all the servants of Pharaoh began to withdraw secretly from the children of Yasharal daily. And Yasharal went on with the work at that time, but they then received their daily wage, because some of the men of Egypt were still continuing to work with Yasharal at the time. Therefore the Egyptians gave Yasharal their wage in those days, their fellow workmen. They might also take the pay of their labor. And at the end of a year and 4 months, all the Egyptians had withdrawn from the children of Yasharal, and at the children of Yasharal were left alone, employed in the work. After all the Egyptians had withdrawn from the children of Yasharal, they returned and became oppressors and officers over them. And some of them stood over the children of Yasharal as slave drivers, to receive from them all that they gave them for the pay of their labor. And all the Egyptians did to the children of Yasharal in this manner day by day, in order to afflict them in their work. And all the children of Yasharal were alone, employed in their labor, and the Egyptians refrained from giving any pay to the children of Yasharal from that time onward. And when some of the men of Yasharal refused to work because of the wages not being given to them, then the slave drivers and the servants of Pharaoh oppressed them and struck them with heavy blows, and made them return by force to labor with their brothers. And all the Egyptians did to the children of Yasharal all the days. And all the children of Yasharal were greatly afraid of the Egyptians in this matter. And all the children of Yasharal then returned and worked alone without pay. And the children of Yasharal built Pithom and Ramesses, and all the children of Yasharal did the work, and some making bricks, and some building. And the children of Yasharal built and fortified all the land of Egypt and its walls. And the children of Yasharal were engaged in work for many years, until the time came when Yahuwah remembered them and brought them out of Egypt. And the children of Levi were not employed in the work with their brothers of Yasharal from the beginning of the day of their going out to Egypt. For the children of Levi knew that the Egyptians had spoken all these words with deceit to the Yashraelites, and therefore the children of Levi refrained from approaching to the work with their brothers. And the Egyptians did not direct their attention to make the children of Levi work afterwards, since they had not been with their brothers at the beginning. Therefore the Egyptians left them alone. And at the hand of the men of Egypt were directed and continued severity against the children of Yasharal in the work. The Egyptians made the children of Yasharal work with harshness, and the Egyptians embittered the lives of the children of Yasharal with hard work and mortar and bricks, and manner with all manner of work in the field. And the children of Yasharal called to Melo, the sovereign of Egypt, Merur, because of the sovereign of Egypt, because in those days the Egyptians had embittered the lives of all manner of work. And all the work wherein the Egyptians made the children of Yasharal labored, they exacted with harshness in order to afflict the children of Yasharal. But more they afflicted them, the more they increased and grow. And the Egyptians was grieved because of the children of Yasharal. And at that time, Hadad, the son of Bedad, the sovereign of Edom, died, and Shamla, and from Metzrah, from the land of the children of the east, reigned in his place. And in the 13th year of the reign of Pharaoh, of the sovereign of Egypt, was the 125th year of the Yasharites going down to Egypt. Samlah had reigned over Edom 18 years, and when he reigned, he drew out his armies to go and fight against Sepho, the son of Eliphaz, the children of the Hittites, because they had fought against Agias, the sovereign of Africa, and they destroyed his whole army. But he did not join with them, for the children of Esau prevented them, saying, he is their brother. So Samlah listened to the voice of the children of Esau and turned back in all his armies to the land of Edom, and did not proceed to fight against Sepho, the son of Eliphaz. And Pharaoh, the sovereign of Egypt, heard this word, saying, Samlah, the sovereign of Edom, had resolved to fight against the children of the Hittites, and afterwards he will come and fight against Egypt. And when the Egyptians heard this matter, they increased the labor upon the children of Yasharal, lest the Yasharites should do to them as they did to them in their battle with the children of Esau in the days of Hadad. And the Egyptians said to the children of Yasharal, hurry and do your work and finish your task and strengthen the land, lest the children of Esau your brother should come to fight against us. For because of you they will come against us. And the children of Yasharal did the work of the men of Egypt day by day, and the Egyptians afflicted the children of Yasharal in order to lessen them in the land. But as the Egyptians increased in labor upon the children of Yasharal, so the children of Yasharal increased and multiplied, and all the Egyptians was filled with the children of Yasharal. And the 125th year of Yasharal's going down to Egypt, all the Egyptians saw that their counsel did not succeed against Yasharal, but they increased and grew. The land of Egypt and the land of Goshen were filled with the children of Yasharal. So all the elders of Egypt and his wise men came before the sovereign and bowed down to him and sat before him. And all the elders of Egypt and the wise men said to the sovereign, may the sovereign live forever. You counsel us the counsel against the children of Yasharal, and we did to them according to the word of the sovereign. But in proportion to the increase of the labor, so do they increase and grow in the land. And look, the whole country is filled with them. Now therefore, master and sovereign, the eyes of all Egypt are upon you to give them advice with their wisdom, by which they may prevail over Yasharal to destroy them and diminish them from the land. And the sovereign answered them, saying, give counsel in this matter, that we may know what to do to them. And an officer, one of the sovereign's counselors, whose name was Eob from Aram Naharim, the land of Uz, answered the sovereign, saying, if it pleases the sovereign, let him hear the counsel of his servant. And the sovereign said to him, speak. And Eob spoke before the sovereign, the princes, and before all the elders of Egypt, saying, look, the counsel of the sovereign, which he advised firmly, respecting the labor of the children of Yasharal, is very good, and you must not remove from them that labor forever. But this is the advice counseled by which you may lessen them, if it seems good to the sovereign to afflict them. Look, we have feared battle for a long time, when we said, when Yasharal becomes fruitful in the land, they will drive us from the land if a battle should take place. If it pleases the sovereign, yet a royal decree go forth, And let it be written in the laws of Egypt, that which shall not be revoked, that every male child born to the Yashraelites, his blood shall be spilled on the ground. And by your doing this, when all the male children of Yashrael have died, the evil of their wars will cease. Let the sovereign do so, and send all the Hebrew midwives, and order them in this matter to execute it. So the word pleased the sovereign and the princes, and the sovereign did according to the words of Eo. And the sovereign sent for the Hebrew midwives to be called, in which the name was one was Siphrah, and the name was the other was Puah. And the midwives came before the sovereign and stood in his presence. And the sovereign said to them, when you do the service of a midwife to the Hebrew women, see them upon the birth stools. If it is a son, then you shall kill him. If it's a daughter, then she shall live. But if you will not do this matter, I will burn you and all your houses with fire. But the midwives feared Yahuwah and did not listen to the sovereign of Egypt, nor to his words. When the Hebrew woman brought forth a son or daughter to the midwife, then the midwife did all that was necessary to let the child to let it live. Thus the midwives did all the days. And this matter was told to the sovereign. He sent and called for the midwives. He said to them, why have you done this matter, that you've saved the children alive? And when the midwives answered and spoke together before the sovereign, saying, let not the sovereign think that the Hebrew women are as the Egyptian women, for all the children of Yashruel are lively, and before the midwife comes to them, they are delivered. As for us, your female servants, for many days no Hebrew woman has brought forth upon us, for all the Hebrew women are their own midwives, because they are lively. And the Pharaoh heard their words and believed them in this matter, and the midwives went away from the sovereign, and Yahuwah dealt well with them, and the people multiplied and grew exceedingly. Chapter 67, so that will be the last chapter. There was a man in the land of Egypt of the seed of Levi, whose name was Amram, the son of Kethath, the son of Levi, the son of Yashua. And this man went and took a wife named Jochebed, the daughter of Levi, his father's sister, and she was 126 years old, and he came to her. And the woman conceived and bore a daughter, and he called her name Miriam. For in those days for the Egyptians had embittered the lives of the children of Yashua. And she conceived again and bore a son, and called his name Aaron. For in the days of her conception, Pharaoh began to spill the blood of the male children of Yashua. And in those days, Sepho, the son of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, the sovereign of the Hittites, had died, and Yanias reigned in his place. And at that time, Sephio reigned over the children of the Hittites, and was 50 years, and he died and was buried in the city of Nabiah in the land of the Hittites. And Yanias, one of the mighty men of the children of the Hittites, reigned after him, and he reigned 50 years. And it came to be after the death of the sovereign of the Hittites that Beliam, the son of Boer, fled from the land of the Hittites, and he went and came to Egypt to Pharaoh, the sovereign of Egypt. And Pharaoh received him with great honor, and he heard of his wisdom, and he gave him presents, and made him for a counselor, and he made him great. And Beliam dwelt in Egypt in honor with all the nobles of the sovereign, and of the nobles exalted him, because they have all coveted to learn his wisdom. And in the 130th year of Yashua's going down to Egypt, Pharaoh dreamed that he was sitting upon his royal throne, and he lifted up his eyes and saw an old man standing before him, and there were scales in the hands of the old man, and such scales are used by the merchants. And the old man took the scales and hung them before Pharaoh, and the old man took all the elders of Egypt and all its nobles and the great man, and he tied them together and put them on one scale. And he took a young goat and put it on the other scale, and the young goat outweighed them all. And the Pharaoh was astonished at this dreadful vision, why the young goat should outweigh them all. And Pharaoh awoke, and see, it was a dream. And Pharaoh rose early in the morning and called all his servants and related to them the dream, and the men were greatly afraid. And the sovereign said to all his wise men, please interpret the dream which I dreamed, that I may know it. And Balaam the son of Boer answered the sovereign and said to him, This means none else but a great evil that will spring up against Egypt in the latter days. For a son will be born to Yasharal, who will destroy all of Egypt and its inhabitants, to bring out the Yasharites from Egypt with a mighty hand. Now therefore, O sovereign, take counsel in this matter, that you may destroy the hope of the children of Yasharal and their expectation before the evil arises against Egypt. And the sovereign said to Biliam, what shall we do to Yasharal? Only a certain manner we did at first counsel against them and could not prevail over them. Now therefore also give advice against them, which we may prevail over them. And Bilam answered the sovereign, saying, send now and call your 2 counselors, and we will see what their advice is on this matter, and afterwards your servant will speak. And the sovereign sent and called his 2 counselors, Ruel and the Midianites, and the Eob the Utsite, and they came and sat before the sovereign. And the sovereign said to them, look, you both heard the dream which I have dreamed, and the interpretation thereof. Now therefore give counsel, and know and see what is to be done to the children of Yasharal, whereby we may prevail over them before their evil shall spring up against us. And Ruel the Midianite answered the sovereign and said, may the sovereign live, may the sovereign live forever. And if it seems good to the sovereign, let him rest from the Hebrews, and let them not stretch out his hand against them. For these are they whom Yahuwah chose in the days of old, took as a lot of his inheritance from among all the nations of the earth, the sovereigns of the earth. Who is there that stretched his hand against them without punishment, whom Yahuwah was not avenged? Now, indeed, you now know when Abraham went down to Egypt, Pharaoh, the former sovereign of Egypt, saw Sarah his wife, and took her for a wife, because Abraham said, she is my sister, for he was afraid lest the men of Egypt should slay him because of his wife. And when the sovereign of Egypt had taken Sarah, then Yahuwah struck him in his household with heavy plagues until he restored to Abraham his wife Sarah, and then he was healed. And Yahuwah punished Abimelech the Gerarite, the sovereign of the Philistines, because Sarah, wife of Abraham, in stopping up every womb from the man to beast. And Yahuwah came to Abimelech in the dream by night and frightened them, in order that he might restore Abraham Sarah, whom he had taken. And afterwards all the people of Gerar were punished because of Sarah, and Abraham prayed to Yahuwah for them, and he entreated of them, and he entreated them. And Abimelech feared all this evil that came upon him and his people, and he returned to Abraham his wife Sarah, and he gave her to him with many gifts. And he also did so to Isaac when he had driven them from Gerar, and Yahuwah had done wonderfully to him. And all the water courses of Gerar were dried up, and the produce trees did not bring forth, until Abimelech of Gerar and Azullah, one of his friends, and Pichol, the commander of the army, went down to him, and they bent and bowed down before them to the ground. And they requested of him to pray for them, and he prayed to Yahuwah for them, and Yahuwah was entreated of him, and he healed him. And Jacob also, the perfect man, was delivered through his integrity of the hand of his brother Esau, when the hand of Laban the Aramean, his mother's brother, who had sought of his life, likewise in the hand of all the sovereigns of Canaan, who had come together against them and his children to destroy them. And Yahuwah delivered them up out of their hands, and they turned upon them and smote them, for whoever stretched out his hand against them without punishment. Indeed, Pharaoh the former, your father's father, raised Joseph the son of Jacob above all the princes of the land of Egypt. And when he saw his wisdom, and through his wisdom he rescued all the inhabitants of the land from the scarcity of food. And after which he ordered Jacob and his children to come down to Egypt, in order that through their good the land of Egypt and the land of Goshen might be delivered from the scarcity of food. And now, therefore, if it seems good in your eyes, cease from destroying the children of Yasharal. But if it's not your will that they shall dwell in Egypt, send them out from here, and they may go to the land of Canaan, to the land which their ancestors sojourned. So when Pharaoh heard the words of Jethro, he was very wroth with him, and he rose with shame from the sovereign's presence, and went to Midian his land, and took Joseph's rod with him. And when the sovereign said to Eob the Utsite, what do you say, Eob, and what is your advice concerning the Hebrews? And Eob said to the sovereign, look, all the inhabitants of the land are in your power. Let the sovereign do as it seems good in his eyes. And the sovereign said to Bilam, what do you say, Bilam? Speak your word, and we may hear it. And Bilam said to the sovereign, of all that the sovereign had counseled against the Hebrews, they will be delivered, and the sovereign will not be able to prevail over them with any counsel. If you think to lessen them by the flaming fire, you cannot prevail over them. For indeed, Yahuwah delivered Abraham their father from Ur Kasdim, and if you think to destroy them with a sword, indeed Isaac their father was delivered from it, and a ram was placed in his place. And if you think to lessen them with hard and harsh labor, you will not prevail even in this, for their father Jacob served Lebanon in all the manner of hard work and prospered. Now therefore, O sovereign, hear my words for this counsel which is counseled against them, by which your will prevail over them, and from which you shall not depart. If it pleases the sovereign, let him order all their children which shall be born from this day onward to be thrown into the water, for by this you can wipe away their name, and none of them, and none nor their fathers, we have tried in this matter. And when the sovereign heard the words of Bilam, the word pleased the sovereign and the princess, and the sovereign did according to the word of Bilam. And the sovereign ordered a call to be issued and a law to be made throughout the land of Egypt, saying, every male child born up to the Hebrews from this day onward shall be thrown into the water. And Pharaoh called to all his servants, saying, go now and seek throughout the land of Goshen, where the children of Yasharal are, and see that every son born to the Hebrews shall be thrown into the river, but every daughter you shall yet live. And the children of Yasharal heard the words which Pharaoh had commanded, to cast their male children into the river. Some of the people separated from their wives, but others clung to them. And from that day onward, when the time of delivery arrived to those women of Yasharal who had remained with their husbands, they went to the field to give birth there, and they brought forth in the field, and left their children in the field, and returned home. And Yahuwah, who had sworn to their ancestors to multiply them, sent one of his intending messengers, which are in the heavens, to wash each child in the water, to anoint and wrap it, and to put it into its hands with two smooth stones, one of which is sucked milk, and the other from the other honey. And it caused its hair to grow to its knees, that by which it might cover itself, to comfort it, and to cling through it, and through his compassion for it. And when Yahuwah had compassion over them, he desired to multiply them from upon the face of the land, and he ordered his earth to receive them, to preserve therein till the time of their growing up, after which the earth opens its mouth and vomits them out, and they sprouted them forth from the cities like plants of the earth and the grass of the forest. And they returned each to his clan and to his father's house, and they remained with them. And the infants of the children of Yasharal were on the earth like the plants of the field, through Yahuwah's favor to them. And when all the Egyptians saw this matter, they went out each to the field with his yoke of oxen, his plowshare, and they plowed it up as one plows the earth at seed time. But when they plowed, they were unable to hurt the infants of the children of Yasharal, so the people increased and grew exceedingly. And Pharaoh ordered his officers to go daily to Goshen to seek for the infants of the children of Yasharal, and they had sought and found one, and took it from its mother's bosom by force, and threw it into the river. But the female child they left with its mother. So the Egyptians did to Yasharalites all the days. All right, so that is it for how the slavery in Egypt started. So I hope you all enjoyed this message, and let me know if you have any questions, and hope you all have a wonderful day.